All right, y'all. Can carnivores cruise? And I think the resounding answer for us, family of 8, we just went on a family cruise and we all eat carnivore and we all ate carnivore on the cruise successfully. We had an awesome time. We had a blast. We enjoyed ourselves. We relaxed. It was great. And so I can confidently say carnivores, in my opinion, can easily cruise because of the high quality of the food and the readily available high quality food and the red meat products that were exceptional. I thought it was relatively easy. You do have to resist all of the terrible, horrible things that nobody should be eating and all the massive amounts of desserts, like absolutely everywhere, 24/7.
Sure.
But I think it was very successful. We had a wonderful trip. I thought it was relatively easy. What say you?
Well, I thought it was pretty easy too. That being said, I guess the only caveat with that would be that we aren't hypersensitive to seed oils or seasonings or things like that. If you legitimately have like a bad reaction to seed oils or seasonings, you might have to take an extra step of precaution and actually ask your waiter to let them know that you're allergic to those things and maybe have them set a special plate aside for you for those things. But we knew going into it that we've eaten dirty carnivore before and we're not hypersensitive to anything like that. So we made out just fine.
And your waiter, they'll always ask you before every meal, do you have any dietary restrictions or anything like that? So that's kind of awesome because they always take that into consideration. And like, for one thing, they always bring out the breads before the meals. And it's interesting. I heard an anecdotal story about this, why they started doing that. And it was very convincing, but they did it to make people to create the carb crash so that you order the dessert.
Oh, sure.
It was very interesting.
That makes sense.
But so we told them on the first formal dining, we said, no, we don't do the bread stuff. And so they didn't ever bring the bread back out, which is awesome. So that makes it easier, and the volume and the amount of meat, and it's cooked to perfection, and it's prepared the way you want it, was great.
Great. So let's get into it then. What did our meals look like, breakfast, lunch, and dinner on the cruise boat?
Okay, so for breakfast, we did the formal dining breakfast, and I had a cheese omelet, a ham and cheese omelet with bacon and lots of sausage. I would always ask them to bring me about 10 to 12 pieces of sausage. I just did like 3 slices of bacon. The sausage was excellent. The bacon was okay. But 3 days in on the omelet, I noticed that the omelet was definitely cooked in probably a seed oil. It was definitely cooked in an oil, and I knew it wasn't butter. And if it's an oil, I guarantee it was a seed oil because I'm sure it's cheaper. They weren't cooking it in olive oil or anything. So after day 3, I just nixed the omelet, and I just did a lot of sausage, 3 or 4 pieces of bacon, and then I did my coffee with lots of butter. They had real high quality butter on the boat, so I did lots of butter and like a teaspoon of honey. And the only thing I didn't do in the coffee was the raw eggs, like I usually do at home. But that was my breakfast.
Yeah, and my breakfast was really simple. I just had a big plate of bacon every morning. I didn't necessarily care for the sausages, so I just had bacon and my cup of coffee with my half and half cream in it, and that was great. And then when we would leave breakfast, I would always bring my big cup and fill up a big cup of decaf, again with half and half in it, and that just kind of held me over until lunchtime. So let's jump into it for lunch, and then you can say what did you eat for lunch?
So I usually do OMAD, and I intermittent fast basically from 8 p.m. to 5 p.m. So my eating window is like 5 to 8 max. And so I usually eat one meal a day. Now on the cruise, when there was a couple days, maybe 2 or 3, where I did eat lunch, I did hamburger patties. They were cooked very well. I did the hamburger patties, and then at the buffet, they had a cheese table with like 5 or 6 different types of cheeses. So I always did like a Swiss or like a white cheddar, and that made it great. And I did 3 patties with a ton of cheese on there, and that worked out great for me.
Yeah, and the cheese was really a treat because we don't usually have cheese at home. Our only dairy at home is butter. So that just felt like a special treat being on vacation. There were a couple other options for lunch we tried out. There's a taco restaurant up at the top, like deck, I think, by the pool area. And we did try that. They had some grilled chicken and some pulled pork that would go on tacos, but of course we didn't get tacos. And then they had all the fixings and toppings for tacos. So if you were doing more of a keto thing, you would find like your avocado and different things like that if you wanted to do that. We just did the chicken and the pork the first day, and we didn't really super care for it. We just rather have our beef, so we just found ourselves mostly every day I was at the buffet getting 2 cheeseburgers, and they have just a nice slice of cheese on them, and I just stacked them up and ate them. Also at the buffet, I thought it was really nice that they had unsweetened tea. That was a real treat to find. So a lot of times I would just get a big thing of unsweet tea.
All right, so that's lunch. And then like the littles, they would sometimes get a fruit cup or something like that, but basically they ate some derivation of what we ate.
Yeah.
And then we ate formal dining every night, and they always had usually an incredible red meat option every single night. So it would either be prime rib, New York strip, or some other derivation of a steak. Twice they had lamb that was cooked to perfection. They had a leg of lamb. It was absolutely wonderful. And so my dinner would consist of 3 main courses of whether it was New York strip, prime rib, fancy night they had lobster, so I had a couple lobster that night, and then still had a red meat product, usually like a New York strip. Everything I had was cooked medium rare, and it was cooked perfectly. And then obviously loaded it with butter, and very simple, very easy, very just the cut of meats, the way it was prepared, it was cooked to perfection. It was very high quality, and it was just incredibly enjoyable. And we tried to explain to them, like, we're only going to eat the meat, but they would still furnish the plate with everything, and you just eat the meat, stack the plates in the middle of the...
It seemed like that was the easiest way to do it. It was just to order your meal and then just kind of push the sides off, and just make it like that.
So that was... And that's what's kind of fascinating. If you think about, if I would have went to a restaurant and ordered all 7 dinners at a decent restaurant that would cook it to that quality.
8 dinners.
8 dinners, was it?
8.
8.
We have 8 people.
No, but I'm just saying 7 nights, you know what I mean?
Oh, I'm sorry.
But I mean, 8 dinners. But just for myself, you're talking at, like, on the low end, $50 a plate, probably $100 a plate. So $300 a night at 7 nights was like, and it's retail, I get it, but like $2,100 the food.
Sure.
So it is what makes not only carnivore cruising possible, but it really makes it inexpensive for us, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. And if we would have taken any other type of vacation and went out to eat, this would have been the situation that you deal with at every restaurant anyway. Would be you would have to turn away the bread, you would have to push your sides off the plate, or maybe even just go as far as to say, we're allergic to seed oils, can you just make my steak separate just in butter? Which I think moving forward on our next cruise we'll probably go that extra step and do that just to be more proactive.
Because they'll accommodate you. If you tell them that, they'll do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and then for my dinner, it was exactly the same. Just lots of meat, steak every single night. They also brought, if you wanted it, sour cream. And I found out about sour cream, I think our first night on the boat that evening. And I dipped my steak with the butter and the salt into the sour cream. And that was like dessert. Like that was like carnivore dessert, just because we don't usually do that at home. So
another funny anecdote was, so we've been on, this is our 10th cruise.
Yeah.
And before this cruise, how many red meat or steak products have you ever eaten on a cruise?
0.
So she went from 0 to pounds and pounds
yes,
and pounds.
0. I was not a beef girl at all. Never, ever, ever my whole entire life. And so when we went on vacation or if we went out to dinner, I would maybe get fish. Now they did have lots of fish options, and we did enjoy some fish.
Yeah, cod one night.
Yeah, but we would always have it with steak.
Red
we'd order that, and then we'd order steak, and then of course the little ones love their shrimp, so that was really cool. And yeah, that was breakfast, lunch, and dinner every single day. There were certain days that I was like, I don't feel like having another cheeseburger. But once I went up there and put the cheeseburgers on my plate and ate them, then I was like, wow, that tastes really good.
Yeah.
I was hungry. So that is the thing. I think that it's just the mental, like, well, I don't really want that, but I'm hungry, so I'm gonna eat it. Oh, it did taste good because I was legitimately hungry. So yeah, let's talk about the forbidden subject, desserts. So we can share a little bit of that, and I can share. Yeah.
What do you mean? I didn't eat anything. I didn't eat any desserts. No, I'm lying. So I had desserts 2 nights. You know, they always have like some no sugar added option. It doesn't mean that it's sugar free. It was just like some one night I had their low sugar deal, and it was really good. But the night that I knew, because I said, look, when they have tiramisu, I'm having tiramisu, right? And it's always like incredible. So I had the tiramisu, and everything would have been fine. Everything would have been great. But James had to get this dark chocolate hazelnut thing. And the other nice thing, this is like formal dining, so even on the desserts it's very small portions, you know, so you're not gorging yourself with one shot. Now there's plenty of people that get multiple desserts and all that stuff. So I did the tiramisu, and then I got this hazelnut dark chocolate thing, and I couldn't sleep. It literally, I felt like I couldn't sleep that night. I felt like I'd been like, I was on jet fuel or whatever. And
that was your first night that you had sugar.
Yeah, that was the first night I had sugar. And then I was like, why did I do that? I didn't sleep good. The next day I was tired because I just didn't sleep. And I'm like, why did I do that? I'm not gonna do that again. That was stupid. And I do think that if I would have just ate the tiramisu, I would have been fine. Because, you know, real small portion, but I had to push the limits. And I paid the piper, and I won't do it again. And it worked great.
Yeah. So before I went on the cruise, I kept thinking about all of the things that I was going to allow myself to eat or do on the cruise. So it was really funny because I know going back like 6 months from now when we started Carnivore, I even told my carnivore friend, like, when I go on the cruise boat, I'm eating fruit. I'm gonna eat fruit. And it's so funny because when we got on the boat, I was like, I don't want the fruit. I don't even want this fruit. And so it was funny, the things that you think about in your mind that you're like, I'm really gonna want that. And then I was like, I don't really want this.
And I would have ate the fruit, y'all, but check this out. There was barely any fruit. There was like 20 times the amount of desserts.
Right.
Like, you know, it was incredible.
It's probably just supply and demand. Like, there's more people that eat desserts, so they've just learned over time they can adjust their fruit amount.
Very little fruit.
Yes, because
it's incredible.
Less and less people.
And tons of sugar everywhere. Just like processed sugar.
Yeah, every kind. So, and then the other thing that I did, you know, I watched some videos of some other carnivore people that went on cruises, and I watched, like, I learned the hamburger and cheeseburger little thing. And so I watched Lily Kane's video on that and how she did the hamburger, the cheeseburgers. I'm like, okay, I gotta keep a mental note of that. And then some other carnivore people that have gone on cruises and just how they've done it. So I also read an article and it was saying that if you're going to try to stay carnivore or keto on a cruise, like it's best to have like a plan in place. So if you're going to allow yourself to have a dessert, like pick the night, like to say, I mean, unless you're having dessert every night, that's fine too. But I mean, you're the boss. But like, if you're going to say, okay, I want to have a dessert on the fancy night of the cruise, the formal night of the cruise, that's when I'm going to allow myself to have my dessert. Or there's some people that will say, well, I'm going to have it midweek and then I'm going to have a dessert the last night of the cruise. Or maybe you just have it the last night of the cruise if you really have a problem with sugar addiction. So you're like, okay, I'm going to do it the last night of the cruise, because then, as tempted as I'll be off the boat and I won't be tempted to do it again. So there was like all these different like game plans that people had kind of worked out to help prepare themselves to, the best they can stay as keto or carnivore as they wanted to be while on a cruise or vacation. Any vacation this would apply for. So another thing that they said in this article was to treat your coffee as your dessert, which I've heard this before on different carnivore channels, was treat your coffee like it's your dessert, and it really is. So I would just have a decaf coffee in the evening after dinner or with dinner, and then I would just sit and drink that as my dessert, and that would be just fine. Another thing, the last thing, if you stayed all the way till the end, this article said was that you can look, if you really want to like substitute or have a backup plan so you don't jump overboard on the cruise boat into the carbs, you can get a keto or a carnivore or Atkins type bar and use that as your dessert. So I thought that was a great idea, and I researched a whole bunch of different keto bars and low carb, low sugar bars, and here's the one that I came up with. They are a little pricey. It's this IQBARs. They come in lots of different
Not sponsored
flavors. I'm not sponsored by this. I chose this because some of the keto bars or the carnivore friendly bars still had like whey isolate, soy isolate, like they had other things
super
in
processed,
them, monoglycerides and different things like that. And I was like, I just want I'd rather have whole plants in my bar than whey isolate. Like I just don't want anything super chemically manufactured. So this also, I picked it because it had the least amount of sugar, 1 gram of sugar. It says 3 grams of net carbs, which I know we don't pay attention to net carbs in carnivore world, but it has 11 total carbs per bar. And it comes in a bunch of different flavors. I can link this for you below, but I had 2 boxes of these on the boat, and 2 evenings, by the time we had our coffee and everything and walked back to our room, there were 2 evenings on the boat that I was like, you know what, I kind of want something. So that's when I pulled out my little bar and I had it and I enjoyed it, and it was a real treat because I never have anything chocolate anymore. So this was just really like a lifesaver. Like if you need something, even going into the holiday season, right? New Year's, or if you're just going out to dinner, you could throw these little bars in your bag, and you and your husband at dinner, you could go to a fancy dinner and pull out your little bar and have your coffee and feel like, I have something and it's special and it's not, gonna tip you over the edge into carb land. That being said, I mean, it is plant-based, so there's it's whole ingredient, whole foods, but anyway, it's not perfect. It's absolutely not carnivore, but it is keto and it is super low carb and sugar. So these little things really helped me out on the cruise boat to feel like I had a special treat.
So the answer is carnivores can cruise. We wanted to share our scientific findings with y'all, and we might do a couple more other cruise videos about our cruise. Maybe throw some B-roll in there of the fun stuff we did. But Thanks for watching. Comment down below if you're a carnivore and you cruise and what your food hacks are for cruising.
Yes.
And we appreciate y'all, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye.